in looking at growth, a lot of business owners, they get distracted, right? Shiny objects come in, they're
Yeah.
chasing squirrels, right? They're doing things that probably aren't moving the needle like they want them to. How do you help them see where that time, energy, and more importantly, the investment dollars have to be put?
So the first thing is, and I hopefully won't put your audience to sleep with this, but your income statement tells a story.
Hmm. That's if
And
a business owner looks at their income statement well enough.
yeah, and you don't have to, you have to know how to read it. But, you know, I help people understand the story of their business, and you can very quickly identify what is important to somebody based on what they spend money on.
Hmm.
And so, Rise grew at 75% on average every single year over that 16 years.
Wow.
And um, a lot of people who I built friendships with were in the agency world that owned much smaller agencies. And they would always ask me, like, what was your secret? How did you do it? Like they're looking for themselves to figure out how they can do it. And I'd always answer the question with a question. It's like, well, what percent of your revenue do you spend on sales and marketing?
Hmm.
And the answer I always got, or 95% of the time I got, was, oh, I don't spend anything on sales and marketing. It's all word of mouth, it's all referral.
Isn't that terrible?
And I would have two typical responses to that. The first one is, so we spend a massive amount, like the highest percent of revenue we possibly can on sales and marketing is one of our strategies. And so what I'm telling you is the difference between me and them was that growth was really important to me. I wasn't wishing growth to happen, I was making growth happen.
Hmm.
And, so yeah,
I think there's I want to say it's Dan Kennedy. I could be wrong, that said,
yeah,
the one who spends the most wins, right? Especially
yeah,
on marketing and sales, because that is something that you control. You're
yeah,
spending money to get in front of more of your ideal prospects rather than building a network and shaking hands with a potential
yeah,
partner, which is not a bad thing, but it's an extra thing. And the primary one is looking at how you get in front of your ideal customers in the most efficient, effective, and you know, cost effective kind of way, right?
yeah. And so look, if it doesn't mean that you have to do it, but I'm just going to use, I know the professional service industry, like that's my sweet spot of expertise. And so if you own a marketing agency, a tech service agency, like these benchmarks will make sense to you.
Hmm.
The average agency or professional service firm spends 8% of their revenue on sales and marketing. That's the average. So if you think about this, half spend more, half spend less.
Hmm.
If you're in the half spend less category, you're at a competitive disadvantage. Year after year after year, that compounds into your brand not being as well known as your competitors. And so I want you to have a competitive advantage. And so
Mm.
what you want to think about is if the average is 8%, how do I spend 16%?
Mm.
How do I have such a large advantage? And I'll get into how you can potentially fund this. But, same thing with R&D. I would say, I've now talked to well into the hundreds, maybe even into the thousands of marketing and tech service companies. And I would say 99.5% of them spend 0% on R&D or innovation. And I'm not talking about innovation with a capital I, like self-driving cars or the next thing to replace the iPad. I'm talking about innovation with a lowercase I, like automating your onboarding for clients, or automating your onboarding for employees, or offboarding, or what I mean, just like small things that
Small
you can get better at.
innovations that improve your operations or
Yeah.
your processes that you do. That's fantastic.
And so, I'll give you just two examples with Fiscal Advocate. We build a lot of technology. So we have a full budgeting and forecasting software system. I'm about to launch an AI CFO Copilot. And I have 5 full-time people. My business has only been around for 5 years, dedicated to building out this technology. Like that's my R&D budget.
Nice.
I then have, on the sales and marketing side, like if someone goes to my LinkedIn content, they'll see that I post minimum every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Haven't missed a single week since August of last year because I have a firm that I'm allocating money to help me manage and build that content
Mm.
because growth is important to me. And the reason why I innovate is so that I can deliver a better experience and better results for my clients at the end of the year than I can at the beginning of the year. And so these are the metrics I want you to be thinking about is how do you get more money into those two metrics, your R&D budget and your sales and marketing budget, so that you keep your customers longer and you're able to win new customers.